This is Reed Lance Rosenthal on the right side, and happy Saturday. It is January. What day? What date is it? It's the 2nd January in 2014. So I guess we're all on the same page here, even if your lovely host can't remember the exact date. Look, we have our usual assortment of terrific articles down below, separated into the various categories, and I've gotten great feedback. If you think other categories should be added, we don't want to have too many, but there might be room for several more. Please let us know. And thank you all for those comments and emails. Keep them coming. If you have a comment on this show, do not be afraid to post it. Post it on the website, on the rightsideradio.com, where you are right now, or post it on our Facebook page on the Right Side Radio. And, tell us what you think. You liberals, you're invited to post also. We like a little spirited debate. I'm going to talk about three things here. Number one, these categories that we have for these shows. One of the comments that we've had is that we need more video. So you'll see some more videos embedded within the articles under the various categories. I want to point your attention this week particularly to the women's category, the military category, and the domestic category. Not that there isn't much going on in the others, too. There's been some wins and losses in the gun control category, and those articles, which, the mainstream media simply will not cover, are down there for you. We won a big court case in Chicago. The Chicago ban on sales, etc., of certain types of guns and gun stores was overturned by a federal judge. I'm sure that'll wind its way to the Supreme Court. And we also lost a few, if you will, or should we say temporarily lost a few until proponents of the Second Amendment get geared up and get them thrown out. The Citizens' Right to Bear Arms, that outfit, great committee, CCKRA, did a whole show with them. Go back in the archives and listen to that. That'll tell you what's going on behind the scenes in this heated legal battle over your gun rights, Second Amendment rights. I did read with some amusement, and the article is posted under gun rights, by the way, that this whole thing has kind of backfired on the Obama administration. We're going to talk about another backfire that's about to occur, another Reid prognostication. But, they wanted to limit guns. Guess what? The sales of guns and ammunition in 2013 outpaced the record sales in 2012. Barack Obama and his minions have done nothing with gun control but to spur gun sales. And as more and more the population becomes armed, the better I feel about things. Remember, and I said this in one of the shows back there in the archives, it might have been, in fact, my interview with Stuart Rhodes, brilliant guy, of the Oath Keepers. Go back in the archives and listen to it. These guys are doing a yeoman's job of trying to hold elected officials' feet to the fire by setting personal examples on their oath to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Really excellent excellent interview, and the guy is impressive, to say the least, as is his organization, the Oath Keepers. And by the way, you don't have to be former military or law enforcement to join. You can become a member of Oath Keepers. Just dial up the Oath Keepers on the internet, or you can listen to the radio show, and we give the points there. And I think it's $30 a year. You can be a member of the Oath Keepers. And there's hundreds of thousands of us. Hundreds of thousands. Worthwhile organization to join, folks. Basic right. And remember that the 150 million, give or take, armed Americans, more than half the population, we are not only the bulwark, the last defense of the Constitution, should push come to shove, but we're the last defense for the planet. We're the last truly armed major power in the world on a citizen basis. Yes, Israel's armed and Finland is armed, but let's face it, they're tiny little countries And although everything helps, rather inconsequential in, shall we say, forestalling the installment of the New World Order which the progressive globalists would like to force on us. I want to talk about two pretty cool things. You know, I love it when tactics backfire on progressives. We have the spectacle here, and there's several articles down below, under state and regional, I think domestic, of this, shall we say, developing scandal, as the Democrats want to call it, in the Christie administration in New Jersey. I'm not going to tell you whether I like Christie or I don't. To be honest with you, there's some things on both sides of the coin about the man. But I think anybody that can beat Hillary Clinton is certainly worth a long look. And we're going to talk about her in a moment, too, because that's the third little part of this segment. So, in a nutshell, and you can read the articles, as some behind-the-scenes stuff that you're not going to get off of mainstream media. Here's the bottom line. So, there was a mayor in a city over in New York, on the other side of the George Washington Bridge, the most heavily traveled bridge, some say in the world, certainly in the United States. And he would not support Christie. He's a Democrat. So it seems that some of Christie's staff, including, by the way, his chief of staff, you know, that's pretty high up in the administration, conspired with certain high-up officials in the Port Authority of New York to block traffic on most of the lanes of the George Washington Bridge, including the first day of school. And it was a whole unholy mess. I mean, it interfered with emergency vehicles, kids getting to school. It was a wreck. And the press brought this out, the Democrats brought this out, and Christie said he didn't know anything about it. And he poo-pooed it. This is like 3-4 weeks ago. Now, emails have emerged just several days ago between the Port Authority guy and the chief of staff guy, and it was obviously planned, and it was obviously political retribution. What does this bring to mind? The IRS and the Tea Party? The NSA? Who knows? But same pattern. And in the same pattern, Christie has now come out with a very forceful statement saying, A, my staff lied to me. B, I didn't know. And C, I'm going to hold it's outrageous. We can't tolerate this kind of nonsense, and I'm going to hold the people responsible. Where have we heard that before? Isn't that from the lips of our dear leader, Barack Obama, in talking about the NSA? Oh, they're not spying on us. In talking about the IRS, first thing I heard about that was in the papers. And so on and so forth. And Benghazi, I might add, which ties in Hillary here in a moment, as you'll see. So I think, if Christie handles this right, I think he will greatly... The Democrats smell blood, but I think this is going to get turned around on him. Christie's a smart guy. Here's what I think is going to happen. Christie's going to can whoever needs to be canned, and he's going to do it in usual Christie fashion. No nice guy. You're fired, kind of Trump language. And I think in doing so, not only will he do New Jersey and New York a favor, but he will set himself apart from Democratic leadership. This ties into the next point, folks. Bear with me. Which Democratic leadership, which keeps saying, how many times have we heard Barack Obama, this is outrageous, this is intolerable, I won't stand for this, I'm going to hold it accountable, I'm going to get to the bottom of it, blah, 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 blah. And, nothing happens, right? IRS, nothing. People still getting salaries and bonuses, $70 million in bonuses. Benghazi, yeah, what a sordid tale that is. NSA, the president who looked us in the eye and said they're not doing this, and he knew damn well they were doing this, and he's taking no steps. He's going to get to the bottom of it. He hasn't gotten to the bottom of it. Clapper flat lied to Congress. His butt may still be in a pickle if Congress ever gets some cojones. And Clapper is Obama's man at the NSA. Of course, emails have now surfaced and information has now surfaced in the IRS scandal. This goes all the way to the White House. The White House knew about it. Treasury Secretary Geithner knew about it. The White House counsel knew about it. You're telling me the President of the United States didn't know about it? Come on. Give me a break. But I think what this might do is give the chance for a Republican, Christie, to be a stand-up guy, to hold people accountable, to get to the bottom of something, and to fire folks. Have some heads roll, maybe even some criminal prosecutions. And in doing so, it will illustrate and highlight how ineffectual and how political the Democrats are. And I think the whole thing will backfire on them. Which segues into the next point, Hillary Clinton. You know, Bob Gates, the former defense secretary, was defense secretary for Bush, and then Obama kept him on, just came out with his new book. There are several articles down below that kind of gives you the gist of it. And it has been news. The mainstream media has picked up on this. But in the book, and Gates says many things, I have not read it to be honest with you, just excerpts. But Gates basically says Barack Obama does not trust the military. You military folks, you already know that. I mean, just look at the articles, right? Veterans benefits cut, pay cuts, pay raise limitations, healthcare fiascos at the VA, etc., etc., etc. Benefits denied. We know what Barack Obama thinks about the military. It's evident, no matter what lip service he pays. We know that we don't have the truth yet on Benghazi. And I have a theory on that. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to see if I can dig up some underground articles that kind of talk about what might have happened over there and post them over the next few weeks. And we know that Hillary, baby, was wholly involved in Benghazi. We know that no help was sent. And there's all sorts of lame excuses for it. We know generals have resigned over it, General Ham. So we know all this stuff, right? We have all these dots. And we find out in this book that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, in front of Robert Gates, discussed the fact that they were against the surge in Iraq, which now is a wreck. There's articles on that below, right? We got Al-Qaeda taking over 2 cities in Iraq that American blood and treasure was spent on during the surge. We have a war that could have been won, that this president extricated us from, completely wasting the lives and injuries and money that was spent over there. I mean, it's just reprehensible. It's treason, to be honest with you. It's treason, along with many of its other acts. But we have Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton talking in front of Robert Gates, as he reports in his book, that the only reason that they, shall we say, screamed and yelled about the Iraqi surge was for political reasons. They both thought it would work. They really didn't want it to work because it was Bush, and they were against it for politics. Hillary Clinton is quoted in the book as saying, well, because it was the Iowa caucuses, I had to be against it because I was running against you. Now, I want you to think about that. Think about it in the context of Benghazi, where Hillary Clinton has lied through her butt, where she has sat there in front of Congress. You know, what difference could it possibly make at this point? I mean, who are you, lady? Who are you? This is a Secretary of State who accomplished absolutely zip in 4 years except to jet set around and smile for the cameras, keep herself in the public view for her presidential run in 2016. You know, we may be talking about treason trials there too. Look, a lot of pundits, particularly Democratic pundits, say she's a shoo-in. Christie is the only one who is running ahead of her in the polls. Do you see how this all ties in? There's always an undercurrent, folks, that ties all this stuff in. None of this stuff, whether it's Benghazi or Iraq or the surge or Afghanistan or this attempted pivot by the Democrats to income inequality, which, by the way, I think is going to backfire also. All of this is tied in, and it's all to promote, maintain, and enhance power, and to reward the followers with taxpayer money. It's all the same game, except we now have an admission written by a guy who is completely respected on both sides of the aisle, has no access to grind, no skeletons in the closet. Maybe he wore a tinfoil hat and the NSA was unable to get any dirt on him like they probably did on Petraeus. Think about this. Think about, ladies, the Democratic pundits are talking about how Hillary has the women's vote locked up. I think you ladies are too smart for that, particularly after 5 years of Barack Obama. Particularly after you are the targets, particularly you ladies over 50 years old, of Obamacare. Ladies' poverty rates are far higher now than 5 years ago. Barack Obama pays his female staff in the White House 17% less than his male staff while he sits up there and talks about the war on women. Hillary Clinton cares not a damn about women. She cares about one thing: your vote. Not the outcome of your life. And the fact that they would put at risk tens of thousands of men and women in the armed forces for politics, as Bob Gates' book clearly, absolutely, unequivocally shows, with dates, names, time, places, conversations, should tell you just a little bit about who these people really are. And I think women will be smart enough, most will be smart enough, to avoid Hillary Clinton, who is merely a female extension of Barack Obama, but maybe even more vicious, like the plague in 2016. There's more ladies on welfare than ever before, more women on food stamps than ever before, a greater percentage of women in poverty than ever before. Women's unemployment rate is higher than men's by a percentage higher than ever before. Women's employment participation rate is the lowest it's been since the Great Depression, and lower than that of men. And it gets worse if you're a minority woman. So I think all this is going to backfire on the Democrats. I don't even want to call them Democrats. There's so few Democrats left. They're all progressives, communists, totalitarian promoters of their own well-being at your expense. Understand that all these things are being undertaken from your pocket. They are playing with other people's money and maintaining their power and buying votes. One of the bills which was introduced by the Republicans in response to this unemployment deal that the Democrats are trying to trump up is a income inequality issue, which in fact really points out the failures of their economic policy for the last 5 years, because if the economy was working, we wouldn't have people unemployed, would we? I mean, this is just 2 + 2 = 4 stuff. Water runs downhill. But one of the things that the Republicans have brought up is, look, this has to be paid for, this $6 billion of extensions past 99 weeks for 1 million Americans who need unemployment. It has to be paid for. Let's pay for it by stopping the earned child income tax. This has been in my previous shows for illegal aliens. That's right. Illegal aliens pop out a baby, they get $1,000 for it. That's right. By the way, that's $1,000 a month, folks, of taxpayer money. Come into the country illegally, pop out a kid, and get $1,000 a month for every kid. And what the Republicans want to do is say no. I mean, that does several things on the immigration front. We're not going to get into that right now. But the bottom line is, let's see if the Democrats vote against that. And by the way, The other thing the Republicans want to hear, you military people and you Americans who support the military, is reinstatement of this pay cut, salary freeze, and veterans benefit cuts, which the Democrats voted for unanimously, just like they voted for Obamacare unanimously. So the Democrats have now taken this income inequality deal, and suddenly, as long as it's covered and people understand this, which is why I'm bringing it up, because the mainstream media, as usual, is not, the Republicans will go along with this extension of unemployment benefits so long as it's paid for. And so long as part of the bill is reinstating all the military and veterans benefits that have been cut, and cutting instead to pay for the unemployment and the military stuff, this $4.6 billion plus that's going to illegal aliens for illegitimate children born in the United States and other nonsense. Now let's see how the Democrats kind of wangle their way around that. I see a blowback, don't you? This is Reed Lance Rosenthal on the Right Side Radio. I'm going to wrap up the podcast for this January Saturday, 2nd in 2014. Once again, your comments are more than welcome, folks. Please send them in. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the articles below. Turn your friends onto this site. You know, this is one-stop shopping. I don't know how many of you get emails and all sorts of stuff in your inbox or try and read papers. I guarantee you take a few minutes and look at the various articles and the categories down below. You can come to this site at any time over the course of any week, and you can get all the news that's fit to print, plus an exponential amount of news in advance that the mainstream media is not bringing to you from a host of sources, both left, right, and moderate. You spend a few minutes every week perusing these articles, you'll be in the know. And the first prerequisite towards taking this country back is for us all to be in the know. Have a great Saturday. We'll talk to you next week.